Okay, my friends, I'm going to call this Saline City Council meeting to order at 6 p.m. on October the 16th. Members present this evening are Council members Kamara Sulak, CO, Del Orco, Gearbaugh, Rice, Mayor Pro Tem Dillon, and Mayor Morrow. From city staff, we have City Manager O'Toole, Clerk Royal, Treasurer Cole, and DPW Director Searles. And of course, we have at least one audience member, and if you'd please sign in the back, we would appreciate that. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted, unless there are amendments.
Moved as submitted.
Moved by CO. Is that a second by Dillon?
Yes, please.
Very good. All those in favor of approving the agenda as submitted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. There are no absences, so we'll proceed to public comments. Under the Open Meetings Act, any person may come forward at this time, make comment or question to City Council. This public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested, but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Are there any citizen comments from those in the audience this evening? I would defer to the city clerk then. Did we receive any written communiques in advance of tonight's meeting in which the individual wanted their remarks read at this time? No, easy enough. Then we will transition to the one and only discussion item of the evening, which is a utility rate study. And I will first defer to the city manager, and then if she would like to recognize the city treasurer or a guest from Baker Tilly, the chair would welcome that.
Thank you. So as promised, we are presenting this year's rate study a little bit later in the season than normal because we are moving to a new structure billing January 1 and going on quarters there forward. Typically, we do our rate changes in June. This time, we're getting on a schedule of doing it January 1 every year. So it's more regular and also lines up a little bit better with our overall financial planning goals. We have representatives from Baker Tilly with us. Do we have someone via Zoom, Clerk Royal? Okay, so we have Andy Campbell, who's our primary financial advisor from Baker Tilly, and Erica, I apologize, I forgot your last name, Thalen, who's also been assisting us with this effort to present today. One thing before we get started, I will note, you may recall from last year's rate study, we had projected, I believe, a 25% increase would be necessary for the wastewater treatment plant, or for the wastewater services this year. Very happy with the outcome of this rate study, the work that's been done by staff to identify cost-saving measures moving forward, and the changes that we're making to our planning efforts to ensure that those rates, rate increases stay more nominal in the future. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to our colleagues at Baker Tilly.
And Erica, thank you for joining us this evening. Please make sure that the green light is illuminated at the base of your microphone, and you may wish to pull it a little bit closer to your mouth. It's definitely on.
Okay. Perfect. Hi, everyone. Andy is joining via Zoom, so I'm just going to talk about the first couple pages, starting with the sewer fund packet. If you could go to that. Scroll down. So starting on page 2, this is just a compilation of the sewer fund expenses throughout the years, and that continues on down to page 3. Focusing on the yellow highlighted boxes at the bottom, you can see that the sewer fund expenses have been increasing throughout the years. Unfortunately, this is due to like inflation, sludge removal has been increased significantly, and the wastewater treatment improvements as well. Unfortunately, this is like a trend that we have been seeing throughout the whole state of Michigan, which is very unfortunate. But if you focus on the test year, which is the last column on the right, this is a test year that we use to predict the budget going forward, and we do inflate it to account for inflation, obviously. This, the 3.18 is, we've been working really closely with the working group to try to condense that down as much as we can, and we feel comfortable that that is a good number to use to predict for the expenses going forward. Questions on page 2 or 3 at this time?
Actually, what I'd prefer to do, Erica, if you'll indulge me, is to finish your presentation. Any comment, we'll receive any comments from your colleague from Baker Tilly, then remarks from the city treasurer and city Cole, and then we'll take questions at the end.
Perfect. Okay, going on to page 4 then. This is all the sewer fund's current outstanding debt. Just wanted to touch point on the highlighted boxes on the right. There's the 2 highlighted boxes. Sorry, I forgot These are just, I just wanted to point out that the city just issued 2 bonds in this year, the 2023 capital improvement bonds and the 2023 SRF bonds. And those full principal payments start to kick in 2026 and 2027. So that's what the highlighted numbers are on the right, is the total overall debt increasing due to that. And then the last highlighted box on the right is the overall debt decreasing, and that is due to the 2017 refunding bonds falling off. That's all I have on page 4, so if Andy, I don't know if he's on, go to page 5.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, I appreciate you letting me join virtually here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right. So just overall, really wanted to just kind of highlight, yeah, I agree with Manager O'Toole and Treasurer Cole. I mean, a lot of this has been done to try to mitigate the sewer rate increases. So when we first did the presentation, 2 years ago maybe, in 21, there was going to be even more significant increases on sewer due to the extensive capital improvements that were needed and just operations and in general. With what Erica talked about, the operations is the team's doing as best they can to control operations with what's happening with inflation. We are constantly in talks with the working group of debt profile for the water fund. So we are recommending what we would term as an inflationary rate increase for the foreseeable future of 5% on both ready to serve and commodity. We feel like that's justifiable in terms of the capital improvement plan, making sure that we're saving enough for the future capital needs while also paying
So right now, our ready to serve fee is $48.83. Our billable is $12.85 per 1,000 gallon or per unit. With the 8% increase for January 1, 2024, that would become $52.74 ready to serve and $13.88 per billable unit.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then the big question is, How are we able to have such a swing from our projected 25% down to 8%?
Well, we were rightly so conservative with our original estimates because there were so many unknowns. We didn't know what financing mechanism we were going to have at the time. We didn't know what grant opportunities were going to be afforded to us. We didn't really even have a hard number on the project itself or a hard number on any of the other projects that we had been looking at the time. Since then, we've had, frankly, a series of pretty good news. We got the SRF loan at an extremely low interest rate that came with principal forgiveness. The state has awarded us $5 million, so between those two things, that's $11.2 million that taxpayers are not having to fund from rates. Moving forward, we feel we have a better grasp in terms of the capital needs of both the water and the wastewater plant, simply because of the staff that we have in place now.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. And then just one other question relating to water. When we start talking about other projects like the West Belt project, an additional water tower, additional wells, things like that, how are they integrated into this?
So this does factor in at least some contribution to a West Belt project starting in 26, 27. We don't have a hard number on what that project looks like yet, but that's exactly why we need to go through this process annually, because as that project really starts to shape up, we'll incorporate more information. On the water side, we did just kind of project some standard capital projects. I know our working group looked at the capital improvement plan as we went through this, so all of those projects were really conceptualized and baked into this pie, so to speak.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Dillon. Mr. Seal, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor. The numbers pretty well speak for themselves, I think, and I appreciate the fact that we were able to keep the rate increase, at least on the sewer side, down to 8%. That's good news compared to what we were thinking. So I guess I don't have any questions, Your Honor.
Oh, easy enough. Thank you, Mr. Seal. Appreciate the comments. This might be quick tonight then. Councilmember Camara-Sulak, questions for our guests from Baker Tilly or city staff?
Yeah, this one is for city manager. So the East Belt project being built into the 26-27 fiscal year?
The West Belt. East Belt will be wrapped up this fiscal year, yeah.
I'm in the East Belt.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything's about the East Belt. West Belt?
Hopefully East Belt will be far in our rearview mirror.
Yes. So is there a certain percentage, or how does that get factored in?
So it's factored in through the replacement fund, so cash out, basically, that's projected to occur within those fiscal years.
Okay. Because some of it looks pretty smooth.
Well, that is the idea, hopefully, too, with some debt falling off if we're bringing on new debt. Water, for example, we've got a pretty good-sized debt falling off in, is it fiscal year 25? Yep, 25. That could open up opportunity, for new debt to take its place, new projects to take its place without really any substantial change in our overall operating costs.
So there's one in 2017 and 2025 that are falling.
Yeah, there's a 17-1 on the sewer side, and, well, that was a refunding bond. That's falling off, and then on the water side, there's one that's falling off. That's about $400,000 a year in debt service.
Okay. That's good. That's also good news. All right, and then this may seem like a basic question, but the annual increases when we're looking at 5% or the 8% to 5% in the sewer fund, people are going to feel, are they going to feel a 16% increase? Because it's 8%.
Well, it's not really, it's the actualized, if you look at the sheet that I shared with you, when you do a combined analysis, so to speak, of the water and sewer rates, it actually works out to about a 7.1% increase overall. So So it's not a stacking increase, it's
Okay.
a blended.
I apologize, Mr. Kamara-Sulek, I will freeze your time. This is my faux pas. I failed to make mention at the beginning of tonight's meeting, the two supplemental documents that the city manager passed out. Colleen, do you want to provide a brief synopsis of both documents for council's reference? And then, obviously, these documents may be available for public distribution in the future as well.
Yes, so these documents are really kind of the precursors to what I hope to have as part of our more public-facing packet, which will be at the meeting in which we actually determine and vote on rate studies. But preliminarily, one of the documents that you have there is how the projected rate of water and sewer stacks up compared to other consumer utility costs. And then the other is a breakdown of the impact on residential users, specifically looking at users who on average use 10 gallons, 13 gallons, and 17, units, billing units.
Very good. Sorry about that, Mr. Kamara-Sulek. You have almost 3 minutes remaining.
Okay, thank you. So looking at that, what percentage did you say that?
7.1.
7.1. Through the 5 fiscal years?
Through just this fiscal year, all future fiscal years will be 5%.
Okay, yeah, I'm shocked, as I'm sure my colleagues are, that you've been able to make this pretty number pretty much lower than 25%.
Well, I think we really lucked out in terms of the debt structure that we got on that $65 million loan, and we certainly have our state legislators to thank for supporting us with the $5 million appropriation. That goes a long way.
Certainly. And then how are we going to communicate? Is there a plan to communicate this good news, so to speak, out to the community?
Yes, so I'll be using that information, assuming council is comfortable with what we learned here today, to prepare for our next meetings packet, a public-facing kind of residential impact statement, so to speak, on utility rates. We will, push that information out through our channels, ask hopefully press to pick up on it because, the more reach we can get, the better. But I think overall, this should be a really nominal impact on the average user moving forward.
All right. Well, I would say that we want to make sure the community knows this successful planning and all the debt restructuring that you've accomplished. So that 7.1 looks a lot better than looking at 8%. So I will, that's all I have. I will yield the floor.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Kamara-Sulek. Councilmember Gearbaugh, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. You basically answered my question about debt servicing. I know the one thing with the sewer fund, it doesn't really show what we would do in terms 10, 15 years from now and adding additional debt, but I was glad to see that in the water fund because then that would basically justify our existing rates without necessarily having to increase them. The other one, I've noticed there were significant IT increases, like about $200,000. There's like $194,000 in the test year. And is that going to continue every year, or what is that?
So that reflects the need to invest in SCADA systems, those emergency alert systems. We are quite behind the times in terms of that technology, so I do anticipate that that type of expenditure will exist for at least the near term. It might be the type of thing that after 3 to 5 years of investment could drop off or decrease, but there'll still be a recurring cost associated with maintaining the system and the software.
Okay. I just wanted to know if it was just a one-time or if it was going to continue on that level, so thank you. The other one, what other anticipated funding is incorporated in this? Just the $5 million that we received from the state, no other anticipated or hope?
The debt forgiveness and the $5 million from the state, but no, at this point, we're not anticipating anything else. So we're going to continue to ask for more support, and obviously that helps move the needle even further.
I'd just like to thank you for doing this, because I think one of the things is it's shown that having your plan and everything in place, and for those of us that moved forward with the rate increase, gave us the option for our legislative individuals to see that we were committed to this and gave us the money to move.
Absolutely, absolutely. Having a shovel-ready project that they knew the community was moving forward with very much helped to get that funding secured.
With that, that's all I have for right now.
Very good. Councilmember Delorco, you have 5 minutes.
Just real quickly. So we're looking at 8% on sewer, 5% on water. Will there be any change to either, I guess there's two components to the ready-to-serve charges, one for water, one for sewer, right?
Yes.
Will those be staying the same, or will those be increasing as well?
Those have the same increase, 8% on the sewer side, 5% on the water side.
So the percentage is taken from the total bill, or is it appropriated to different aspects of the water and sewer bill? I don't understand how the 8% is comprised.
So so there's the two components of the water bill, the ready to serve and the consumption. Both are being increased by that percentage. Now, the actual impact that has on a residential user is dependent upon their actual consumption. So
Right.
in the scenarios you see, it fluctuates between 7.1 and 7.2%. If you use more,
When you average that?
yes, when you average it out across
Yeah,
the
that's what you
actual
guys were
bill.
just discussing with
Yeah.
Mr. Kamara-Sulek's question. Okay, so just thinking about the end user, if they go through the trouble of adding second meters to their, for their lawn watering and their sprinkler systems, are they charged an additional two components of the ready-to-serve charges, or just the one? Because they shouldn't be charged for sewer ready-to-serve.
Correct, they aren't charged for any sewer. So that's the whole point of the second meter, is there's no sewer charges
Right.
in ready to serve.
So they're
There's only
ready to-
one ready to serve charge.
The ready-to-serve charge on that meter would only be like $25 as opposed to the $75 the average.
Because it's water, yes, so yes.
Yeah, okay, all right. That was one thing I was wrestling with in my head. I'm thinking about how this impacts the end user, and I remember last year, one of the main things we pitched to the community was that if you really want to save money, you'll get the second meter installed. And when I was thinking about if they have to pay another $75 on ready-to-serve charges, it doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense for them to
Nope,
do that.
it's still, that whole system is still set up absolutely the same, and certainly, again, we will continue to stress, if you are the type of user that has a lot of outdoor irrigation, look at getting a second meter.
Right. And I'll have to ask the question because it was a big point of contention for me last year. Was there any attempt to reevaluate looking at this in terms based on consumption as opposed to ready-to-serve rates and tiered structures? Or are we just not even considering that as an option moving forward?
We really, the legal footing just is not there for the tiered structure system. When we look at ready-to-serve and commodity charges, the ready-to-serve is based on what it costs to operate that system. And the commodity charge is really based on what it costs to produce the water or to then treat. So the hard costs of the ready-to-serve tend to be tied heavily to capital expenditures. And in that way, everyone kind of has to pay their share of the system.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that because Ann Arbor prevailed in their litigation around this issue, and they're currently using the tiered structured program. So when the arguments are presented as there's no legal footing for a tiered structured model, I don't understand how that narrative comes to be a true narrative.
Well, I give credit to the city of Ann Arbor for what they were able to accomplish. They obviously have a much bigger legal team than the city of Saline, and perhaps a larger appetite for willingness to kind of accept and navigate those lawsuits that may or may not win. They don't win every one of their lawsuits, but they certainly face a great deal of them. I think it's admirable that they attempt to kind of challenge preconceived notions. A community of our size, it's a very risky gambit to try and play those legal games. At this time, I'm happy to get further legal opinion, but the prevailing is still Bolt v. the City of Lansing. That's how rates are based.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember Kamara-Sulek. Councilmember Rice, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Just two quick questions. One, how often are we going to continue to assess this? Do we have more assessments?
Annually, yes.
And can you, very briefly, this must have slipped past me as a newbie. So we're switching our readings to quarterly, starting on, when will readings happen?
January 1. You want to talk about the benefit of this?
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yes,
Your mic is not on.
So we are switching the quarters just to begin on January 1st instead of December. It's still going to be for the same 3-month period. It's just going to be pushed off 1 year by a month so that we can get it on the calendar year cycle. In addition to a lot of the benefits that we've already discussed here tonight, another large benefit is it is extremely time-consuming and very complicated to calculate year-end balances because those final bills haven't gone back, and we're always having to parcel up the months and then do a huge complicated calculation for the audit to record the revenue. And this way it will allow us to be right in sync with our calendar year, which will make things a lot cleaner and easier to understand for everyone. I also think that there's a true benefit. We get a lot of calls from residents, and it's kind of confusing sometimes to them when our cycles start and stop, and I think that that will reduce a lot of that kind of cloudiness.
Does it shift summer at all?
It does a little tiny bit, keeping in mind that the summer is already split, so this is just, another month on one side of the equation.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. And then my second question is broad and eccentric. What haven't we thought of? I feel like last year there were a lot of things that maybe we didn't think of. What conversations have you had kind of behind the scenes as to what are the scenarios that a homeowner could find themselves in? Last year there was kind of the worst case scenario of the changeover of the meters and the timing of the reading, and it was summer and things like that. Have you had some kind of like backwash conversations where you discuss what happened last year and try to prevent it from this year?
I mean, the experience of last year, we're prepared for anything this year.
I think, changing the cycles is part of that, and also starting the increase in January. Starting the increase in January is a lesser consumption time period for residents, so it's going to give them time to get used to the new rate and actually see it, because as much as we try to communicate with open meeting town halls, website publications, and all kinds of marketing tools, we still miss people that the rates are increasing. So what it does is it gives people kind of 1 quarter to see, oh, my rates went up, this is kind of what my bill normally looks like, and now it looks a little bit different, so they can prepare to get those second water sprinkler meters or reduce their consumption, do energy saving things that they can do in their house to reduce consumption. So it just gives them a little bit more notice and warning, and those are certainly things that we've thought through thoroughly.
And one of the things we want to do this year as we're going through noticing the rate increases is also continue to stress to people to sign up for the new smart meter app. It's a great tool. It'll help you catch a leak earlier, avoid any costly bills that you really don't see coming, and helps you really take ownership of your usage. So we'll be doing kind of more press releases and public notices on the rates, and again signing up for that smart meter app.
If you don't mind me adding a little bit to that, City Manager O'Toole? Sure. I will say this, that with the new metering system, the new app, I couldn't stress enough to really push this as a seller to all residents, that they need to have this app. It does the leak alerts, so I think that's where I see the most cost come into a resident's bill is when they have a leak. And, we are not legally obligated to. We try to do the best that we can when we notice that leaks are happening to alert the residents, but on 3,300 accounts, we can't monitor them all every day. So they sign up, they will get an email notification, a text notification saying, hey, your water usage is up. And the residents that I've talked to have said, oh yeah, last weekend we had guests, so that makes sense. Or, so it really helps them have a live view of what's happening in the moment, so you're not waiting a quarter and end up with a gigantic bill when you didn't realize you had a leak.
I think that's wonderful, and I will absolutely help communicate that, but we have to keep in mind that we have a very significant population of seniors in our city. So again, all of those communications through the FYI newsletter, however you can reach folks, maybe have a little meeting at the senior center or pass out some information at the senior center, things like that. I think that will really help. And it does make sense to switch this to January 1st. You kind of expect things to change in the new year. So I do see it going a lot more smoothly this year, and I appreciate those efforts. And if there's anything that council can do to help continue to promote the communications with residents, let us know.
Thank you, Councilmember Rice. I have 3 questions, and they're all public-facing questions. And I'll preface, if it requires some numbers to be crunched and you need to get back with me in the ensuing days and weeks, that's fine. But I believe this would be for the city manager, city treasurer. If you'd like to defer to our guest from Baker Tilly, that's fine. Do you have an idea of what sort of impact the $5 million direct appropriation from the state of Michigan had on the proposed rate increases? So I guess the flip side of that question is subtract the 5 million. What would we be looking at for 2024?
Yeah, I'd have to talk with our working group to kind of work backwards on the number, but happy to figure out what it is and get back to you.
Very good. And so my follow-up question would be, the United States House of Representatives, the House Republicans have slated for the city of Saline as part of the appropriations process to receive, I think, roughly just shy of $1 million. It's 900 and some odd. The Senate appropriation gave us closer to 2 million. I'd be interested to know if the federal government were to actually pass a budget and not continue to fund operations on continuing resolutions, and we got some portion of that allocation, what sort of impact that would have on future rates or even rates in 2024. And then my final question would be, what sort of direct grants, supplementals, appropriations would we be looking or needing to receive in the ensuing years to mitigate rate increases further? And again, I don't necessarily expect answers to those questions. If you'd like to take a stab at them, that's fine. But if you'd like to follow up with me in the ensuing days and weeks, that would be appreciated.
Well, the good news of our concerted effort to kind of alert our state and federal officials to the situation with our wastewater plant is we're very much on people's radar in terms of when grant or financing opportunities come through. So there's very little out there that would maybe tangentially relate to the work that we're doing that Treasurer Cole and I haven't been made aware of yet, which is great. It's just really a matter of identifying the ones that we qualify for and the projects that meet those particular needs. The other thing I will say is we'll continue to try and pursue SRF funding where and when we can get it. That is absolutely the best opportunity we have for low interest rate debt. But in the absence of that, there are some other really valuable programs out there that we're aware of. USDA offers a program. Alternatives to just the standard bond market that could be more favorable for us if we're willing to put in the legwork up front in terms of going through those federal hurdles for accessing funds.
Very good. Well, I appreciate that, and I look forward to following up with you in the coming days and weeks on those questions. I appreciate it. We can go around the dais one last time to see if there's any outstanding questions or concerns or things that you thought of in the interim period. Councilmember Dillon or Mayor Pro Tem Dillon, any additional thoughts or questions?
Thank you. I think just, you may have asked it, I'm just going to ask it in a different way, which is if we were to receive supplemental funding at some point, would we smooth out our rates moving forward? Would we just sort of take a break and take a drop in 1 year? Or would we just sort of bank it and?
So in all likelihood, I mean, typically when you're getting funding, especially like direct allocations or grants, it's tied to a project. So what we would do is we'd go back into our capital improvement plan and then just reevaluate what the debt service would be on the remaining portion of the capital project to determine our operational costs.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Dillon. Mr. Sue, anything else?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Councilmember Kamir Sulak?
No, I think this was very well done. Pretty clear, especially after looking at the supplemental that put it together. Thank you for all your hard work on this. I don't think everybody should be happy to only be paying a small increase versus what we are looking at. So due to your efforts, thank you.
Councilmember Gearbaugh?
Just one question. Ms. Cole, when we move into the quarterly or calendar year quarters, won't there be an additional month billed in one period, and will that be in January? Or which bill period will that be for?
It will be for December, and that will be.
This year?
Yep, this year. So we'll wrap up this last quarter with an extra month for residents.
So just to, people may have questions on that, so we should communicate on that. Thank you.
That's definitely worth doing some proactive messaging on via social media or FYI newsletter, social media platforms, et cetera, website. Councilmember Delorco, any additional questions or comments?
Just one small question for perspective and to remind me, what was the rate increase we had to approve last year?
It was 25% for water and 50% for sewer.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, I believe it normalized to around 32 to 36%. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah,
So the
Pretty
big
dramatic.
hit has happened.
yes. And I believe we are over that hump.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Delorco. Councilmember Rice, any additional questions or comments?
Nothing further, thank you.
Easy enough. Well, unless there are additional comments from the dais or from staff, guests from Baker Tilly, anything else you'd like to add? We appreciate you being here in person and your colleague joining us via Zoom. I would remind City Council and the public that this issue will be addressed and discussed again at one of our upcoming meetings in November. And of course, please feel free to review the agendas and support material by going to Documents on Demand. If you need any assistance navigating that site, please reach out to the city clerk. She or her deputy, Jennifer Alexa, would be happy to assist. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion then to adjourn this work meeting at 6:39 p.m.
So moved.
Moved by Kamara Sulak, seconded by Gearbaugh. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned. We will start promptly at 7 p.m. Could you please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, and welcome to this evening's council meeting. There are copies of the agenda on the back table. We would encourage you to sign in, and there are also hearing devices if you require them. Members present this evening are council members Camara Sulak, Seo, Delorco, Gearbaugh, Rice, Mayor Pro Tem Dillon, and Mayor Morrow. From city staff, we have the city manager, the city clerk, the city treasurer, the Parks and Rec director, the deputy Parks and Rec director, and our DPW director, along with Police Chief Radzik and deputy city manager or assistant city manager Getzman. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted unless there are amendments.
Moved as submitted.
Moved by CO to approve as submitted. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Dillon. All those in favor of approving the agenda as submitted signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. There are no absences, so we'll proceed to public comments on agenda items. Under the Open Meetings Act, any person may come forward at this time, make comment or question on an item that appears on this agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Please, if you...
Local resident, local social entrepreneur. The agenda today, one thing I feel sad.
Whoops.
Yep. Hold on. We'll. Yep. Make sure the green light is illuminated at the base of the microphone and pull it close to your mouth. There should be a little green light. Yep, and pull it a little bit closer.
Is this enough? What she talking about?
Okay, now speak into
Okay, you
this.
give me
Speak into
one more.
this.
Yep,
minutes,
your
4 minutes.
time is frozen. Just pull that microphone a little bit closer to you.
Okay. Good evening, Changming Fan. I want to cut it short. One thing I feel very bad, and but also have to have the honor and recognize wonderful human being, the director, Shrugs, for many years served us. And that is so as all other leaders in this town serve us, that we make Saline such a beautiful place to live, to work, to do exercise, and socialize. So thank you so much. I have to say the second thing is about the award for today's Green Thumb and then award, and then I look at the list and check the address, and I did visit some of the wonderful gardens in Saline. Congratulations for all of you. You deserve the recognition, and also your work beautifies Saline and also our heart. One thing I want to add is because of Saline is expanding, our culture has evolving and changing. Therefore, in the area of gardening, we have to consider this culture change and development. DEI, that is about. The different way of doing gardening related with the environment have to be recognized. The Eastern way, like Chinese and Japanese, is different than the Western world. We have to really have to go more and more organic rather than just buy and plug in. I noticed some of the gardeners really creative, reuse this and that. And in Saline, we have to really pay attention about how we use the plastic, how we reuse the plastic, and how we reuse the fertilizers. And lastly, I have to say the strategic plan, which is we're going to have the plan in next session, it is very important. I did talk with Mr. G, who will volunteer to do the garden work of one of the area is libraries. And probably some of you do not even know, Saline have the second large libraries near Mill Pond Manor. And that something is also, we have to talk strategically, we should really not enjoy and then maintain that, just like maintain the museum, a lot of work. If we don't do it, it is going to be gone. So I really encourage the council to discuss about that and recognize the individual help in this preservation. Thank you.
Thank you, Changmin. Appreciate your comments. Are there additional citizen comments on agenda items this evening?
Hi, I'm Jen Hermount. I just want to say thank you to everybody that has submitted their beautiful lawns and space for the Green Thumb Award, and appreciate the folks that have done it sustainably too. So it's what helps make Saline such a beautiful, special place. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Any additional citizen comments on agenda items this evening? Then I would defer to the city clerk. Clerk Roy, did we receive any written comments in advance of tonight's meeting in which the individual wanted their remarks read at this time? Easy enough. Then we transition to the first of three presentations this evening. I would ask that all of the folks that are taking the lead on our presentations exercise some brevity, because we do have three tonight, along with some substantive new business items. So first up is the Green Thumb Award. So I would invite our Parks and Rec staff, the chair of our Parks Commission, and then I believe, Director Scruggs, you would like Parks Commission Liaison Rice and myself to join you up front as well. Very good.
Yes, please. Thank you. On behalf of the Park Commission, I'm speaking on their behalf right now. This year's, the 2023 Green Thumb Award, this year we had over 70 nominations. Several were duplicates, but this definitely was a banner year for Green Thumb. The Park Commission had a very hard task of selecting our award winners this year. I feel like I'm not talking to the right people. I don't know how I can do this. In any event, I'm talking to you all. But this year we came up with our business award winners. We have 3 business winners and 6 residential winners. And without further ado, in the business category, our first award winner is Woodland Family Dentistry. And if anyone is here from Woodland, thank you. Which I don't think that they're here. But we would like to recognize Woodland Family Dentistry for their nomination. The next one, we have the Rec Center. I'm very fond of this one, but I'd like to bring up Patty Seaforth. Yes, please. She is the mastermind behind all of the wonderful plantings at the Rec Center. She is a volunteer. She masterminded the whole design of the front and the back and the gardens. And she also had some help from IMI, which is one of our businesses in the industrial park. They had a IMI work day, and they came out and assisted Patty with a lot of plantings and really shaped it up this year. So we're very grateful. Thank you. And our next one is long overdue. This is A&H Lawn Care. A&H has been the longtime sponsor of our wonderful boulevards on Michigan Ave and the planters on the sidewalks. They have done this year an incredible job. We want to recognize them, and especially Chris McCartney. He is the team lead that installs and does the maintenance of all of the flowers along Michigan Ave. So we'd like to recognize A&H Lawn Care. Okay, and for our residential award winners, the first one we have is 100 East Henry, which we have Kimberly Kobe. Wonderful, wonderful display this year. She definitely has a green thumb. Thank you. And the next up is 223 West Russell. And they're unfortunately not here. It's Mike and Laura Cox. They called, they're out of town on vacation, so they weren't able to be here. But they will be getting their certificate along with, and I failed to mention this, Saline Flowerland gift card for $25. So they can use that to beautify their home. The next one, we have 272 Clark, apartment 2. The award winner is Nada Alwar, and she's not available to be here, but Tim Cummings is accepting on her behalf. Hey, you got to get a picture. Thank you. Our next one is 415 North Ann Arbor, and that is Linda Feldkamp. Come on up. Can we see, I don't know if everyone can see the photos, but if you get a chance, run around town and take a look at some of these beautiful gardens. Everyone's done a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Great. And we have 610 Rosemont, and that is Dawn Matthews. I know Dawn is here somewhere. Excellent. I'd also like to take this opportunity to recognize the nominators, the people that nominate these gardens. They obviously are very impressed by how they look and definitely want our award winners to be recognized. And our last award winner is 1398 Colony, which is Susan and Jean Miklovich, and they unfortunately are not able to be here as well. But we do want to give them a round of applause. Okay. Again, we're going to take just a few minutes. All the award winners, if you want to step out into the lobby, we'll take a quick photo, a group photo, and then you're free to leave or stay if you'd like.
You want to do the picture real quick, and then we'll take maybe like a 2-minute pause? Okay.
Okay.
And then they'll return and
Photo.
proceed with the rest of our agenda. The members of the Parks Commission, in addition to our council liaison, Ms. Rice, we also have Chuck Lesh, who serves on the Parks Commission. Thank you all for being here and for your work on the Green Thumb Initiative 2023. Director Scruggs, would you like to join me up front?
I would love to.
So,
Yeah,
I'd stay right here. Our second presentation this evening is somewhat bittersweet because we are going to say goodbye to one of our most esteemed colleagues and one of our longest-serving city department heads who has truthfully transformed Saline Parks during her 3-decade-plus tenure. She is a phenomenal public servant, and we have been beyond blessed her leading Saline Parks since the early 1990s. So the staff of Saline Parks and Rec, in conjunction with the city manager and our PR generalists, deemed it appropriate to draft a certificate of recognition. And I do want to read it in its totality, if you'll bear with me, because Director Scruggs has done and has accomplished a great deal during her tenure with Saline. So whereas Carla Scruggs has served the Saline community for 32 years, beginning in 1991, where she served as Assistant Director and Aquatics Director at the Saline Recreation Center before taking over as Director of Parks and Recreation. And whereas Carla earned an undergraduate degree and a master's degree in Recreation Administration from Central Michigan University, Ms. Scruggs served as a graduate intern specializing in senior programming and youth youth and adult sports in the city of Hazel Park. She then worked as the recreation coordinator at the city of Novi for 3 years before coming to the city of Saline. And whereas in her position as Director of Parks and Recreation, Carla served as staff liaison to both the Saline Parks Commission and the Saline Youth Council. She was also an active member of the Saline Recreation and Parks Association and a volunteer with such organizations as Saline Rotary Club, Friends of Henny Field, and SAS Metro Detroit Softball. And whereas Carla Scruggs spent 32 years with the city of Saline, working on countless park improvements, improving the romp play structure at Mill Pond, creating Mill Pond Park Dog Park, the Curtis Park Dog Park, beautifying Teff Park with a new pavilion, sand volleyball courts, gaga ball pit, and camp garden, working on the 2006 Saline Rec Center expansion, and serving on the 2010, 2013, and 2021-23 Rec Center Sustainability Task Forces. Whereas Carla Scruggs received many awards for her work as the M Parks, she's the recipient of the M Parks Program Leadership Award, the George A. Anderson Vision Award, and the M Parks Fellowship Award. Whereas Ms. Scruggs announced her retirement as of October 20th, 2023, and the city of Saline, of course, wishes her the best of luck in all her future endeavors. Now, therefore, the City of Saline Council, on behalf of the citizens of Saline, do hereby thank Carla for her long tenure, dedicated service, and outstanding performance. I can't emphasize that enough. To the city of Saline, the Saline Parks and Recreation Department, and the Saline Rec Center, with sincerest best wishes for a very long and enjoyable retirement. Congratulations, my friend. Yeah, you'll get it. You'll get it. We'll also be celebrating Director Scruggs later this week at the Rec Center, and so there will be more to say and more gifts to be presented. But in addition to the proclamation this evening, on behalf of myself and my council colleagues and staff, we wanted to present you with this beautiful bouquet. And again, thank you for your outstanding leadership, everything you've done for the city of Saline. You've been not just a colleague and a friend, but also a she will be greatly missed.
What are you doing, Ben?
Testing. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. These are absolutely lovely. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's excellent that it's Green Thumb, same evening. I actually have a couple of words to say, if that's all right. Excellent. Well, thank you. I'm going to speak behind me and in front of me. So, and I'm also going to read this because I don't want to just wing this. I mean, it's been 32 and a half years, not just 32 years. And I want to make sure I get it right and say all the proper things. So with that being said, Saline City Council, City Manager O'Toole, esteemed colleagues that are here, friends and community members. I stand before you today with a profound sense of fulfillment as I retire from my role as the Parks and Recreation Director after 32 years of service. It has been both an honor and a privilege that I've had to be part of this wonderful community and to have had the opportunity to work alongside so many exceptional individuals who have become friends, colleagues, and mentors throughout the years. Saline is not just a place on the map. It's vibrant, caring, supportive community made up of people who genuinely care for one another. The experiences I've had here, the relationships I've built, and the memories I've created will forever hold a special place in my heart. I have witnessed the growth and development of this city, and I am immensely proud to have played a part in shaping the recreational experiences for our residents. I leave my position knowing that the Parks and Recreation Department is in excellent hands. Sunshine Lambert, our new Parks and Recreation Director-to-be, is a dedicated and passionate leader who, along with the incredible team of Brian Spraw, Stephanie Ferguson, Catherine Clement, Sarah Zietlow, Jan Hoffman, and all the dedicated part-time employees will continue to nurture the spirit and community and provide outstanding recreational opportunities for Saline. I'm confident that the future of Saline's Parks and Recreation Department is bright, and I look forward to witnessing its continued success from the sidelines. Thank you to Saline for the memories, the challenges, the growth, and the support. I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to have served this community, and I'm excited to see what holds future for all of us. Thank you.
We have some guests from Kapnick Insurance to provide a presentation to City Council and the community. And as soon as our IT support has
You're going to have to slide because it's not in PowerPoint.
assisted you with your PowerPoint, you may begin. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself too, for the record, for those who don't know you or may be new to City Council meetings.
Well, good evening. My name is Beth Madziar. I'm with Kapnick Insurance Group, and I bring with me tonight Kelly Harness, and Kelly and I are going to be working together with the city moving forward. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for all the years of our partnership. We really enjoy working with everyone here at the city. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the renewal for the insurances. As you can see here, the insurance renewals do reflect an increase of premium of $52,000 for the 2024 plan year. So that's when we're talking about the overall dollar that the invoices will increase year over year. We know it's a lot more complicated than that when we consider PA 152 and the unblending of the rates. The largest component of that increase would be the medical portion. As a result, it was almost $44,000 relating to the active employees. It was primarily driven by trend. The medical trend for facility was 4%, professional was 5%, and prescription drug, the trend built in was 13%. Your claims, though, did help the renewal slightly. Our book of business at Kapnick, our average renewal for a group that's an experience-rated group like you are was 11%. So we delivered a lot of double-digit renewal increases this year. Yours was around 6% for the medical. The retiree portion increased the almost $8,000 for those Medicare Advantage plans that were primarily driving that low increase. The vision was a slight increase of less than $1,000, and your dental and Mutual of Omaha was in a rate lock. We know that PA 152 plays a part when we're looking at the contribution to premium and how it will impact your employees. PA 152, the hard cap increased 4.1%. That's the largest increase I've seen yet. And as a result, of the insurance renewals, the employees will be picking up about just under $13,000 of that renewal increase, and the city would be responsible for approximately $39,000. So we have here the hard cap increase. So if we look at the 23 to 24 increase, that 4.1%, we're looking at just under $30,000 that the city would be responsible for active employees' medical insurance premiums. We know the city picks up the difference for the retirees and the dental, the vision, and the life and disability if there is an increase there. So really this chart here summarizes everything. When we unblend the rates, we see that the responsibility to the city was $31,000. For the retirees, you're picking up the entire amount, and the same for the vision. So overall, that's how we reach the $39,000 for the city. And the employees will be picking up that $12,745 by way of increased contribution to premium, the amount coming out of their paycheck, and decreased contribution to the HSA. So that is outlined in this paragraph below. We provided different options for each of the plans, and when we met with the committees, the proposal was to move forward without changes to the plan designs to the medical, and move forward with the $12,000 increase to the employees by way of contribution to premium and the lowered HSA contribution. I won't go through all of the medical plan options unless there was a desire to hear about it. Okay. But I did want to point out that on your HSA plans, you have about 48 active employees that were considered when we looked at the medical renewal. You have 27 on an HSA plan with at least a $3,000 deductible. It's moving to $3,200 for a single and twice that for two-person or family in the new year. That means that more than half of your population is in a consumer-driven health plan. And when your plan is driven with your experience playing a factor in the renewal. Having your members on a consumer-driven health plan really does help, hopefully in driving those claims, having them think before they use those services, okay? So I don't know that I'll go through this whole presentation. I don't think I've actually shown the presentation in past years. It's just been printed off, unless you wanted to hear about all of the perks for the Blues that the employees will be getting? Okay. I guess the only other thing I wanted to point out is that a Alliance program, an EAP program is being implemented as of October 1st. This will bring a strong employee assistance program to your employees where they can have counseling for short-term problem resolution. It can help them from, household family members. It can even provide assistance in, financial and legal areas. So this will be a great resource that'll be rolled out to your employees. So they have a great benefit package that's offered to them.
Very good.
Any questions?
Thank you very much. We will open it up for questions, but I first want to provide an opportunity for both our city manager and assistant city manager to make comment if they would so choose.
I will just add that the renewal costs are within what we had expected from budgeting purposes, so no surprises there and no need for amendments in response. And generally speaking, during our working groups, we heard from employee representatives that they were satisfied with the benefits as they're offered.
Very good. Assistant City Manager Getzman, anything you'd like to add? No? Okay. Hang tight, just in the event that there are questions that are best addressed by your office. Again, following the same order that I did earlier this evening, I'll begin with Mayor Pro Tem Dillon and end with Councilmember Rice. So Mayor Pro Tem Dillon, you have 5 minutes if you'd like it for questions or comments.
Thank you. I had an opportunity to review this presentation earlier as I was a part of the Benefits Committee presentation when Kaepernick came to the city. It is all laid out within the presentation, and for those that aren't quite sure, that understand when we're talking about all these categories, is that we do have so many different categories of people, and then we have actives versus retirees, and because of that, the understanding is that we're limited to the Blues because of the way our numbers work with actives versus retirees. And so we're sort of stuck there right now. It does look like we're only looking at unblended now. We don't blend back. And so I don't know, do we run those numbers anymore to look at both sides? That was the only thing that I was going to ask, and I apologize that I didn't ask that in advance.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we receive the renewal from Blue Cross, and then we run it through a calculation to unblend the rates, basically accounting for the cost of the pre-65 retirees, so those rates would increase, and then those active employees who are not 65, their rates would decrease.
Thank you. And then my only other question is the new enhanced EAP program. It definitely looks like it offers a lot more than what we had before. And it is coming at an increase in cost too. So I would like to ensure that we're looking at and making sure that employees are taking advantage of all of the opportunities that program offers, and just sort of tracking what aspects of it people are using, so that when we go for renewals, we'll know whether we need to have that premium level or something sort of in the middle beyond the base that we had before.
Of course, it's strictly confidential, right? They won't share any specifics regarding employees, but definitely they have reporting that will show who's using it, and a return on investment.
Exactly, that's all I would look for.
Yep.
Thank you very much for the information.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Dillon. Mr. Seal, you have 5 minutes if you'd like it for comments or questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to say that I'm pleased that it stayed within the budgeted amount that we had planned on, and that there aren't any unforeseen expenses here. So thank you for all your hard work. Thank you, all of you folks on the committee.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Seal. Councilmember Kamir Sulak, any questions or comments? You'll have 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you. Mr. CEO stole a couple of my words as far as, while we have increases, it's nice to see that it's within what we anticipated. So we seem to be knowing what we're doing, and but I have a couple questions. I'm not used to the word embedded being above the deductible amount?
Yep. So you saw in the materials the word embedded referring to deductibles. And so when we look at medical deductibles, they're either aggregate or embedded. And so I always think of the embedded deductible as kind of a protection. If you're on a family plan and you have one member with a lot of costs, medical costs, then they have to meet the individual deductible. The individual deductible is embedded in the family deductible, and then the remaining members meet the difference between the family. So you're not having to satisfy the full deductible as a family if one member's experiencing high costs.
All right, very good.
You did your homework, right?
This is a good plan.
It is.
It's very impressive that we're able to keep offering this and not shop down. So thank
Yeah.
you for all your work.
And we look at benchmark information. The plans fall for municipalities right in line with benchmark information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kamara Sulak. Councilmember Gearбал, you'll have 5 minutes if you'd like it.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. One of the questions I always look at is the 80/20 versus a hard cap. Do we still calculate that number?
It's on the pages.
Unfortunately, I didn't get access, and the document I was sent was not, I could not look at it.
I'm going to
So if you could
scroll
point it
to
out.
this one. So we kept the same format as we have from all the years. At the top, can I point on here? Can you see that?
Yep.
We have the unblended rates, so we receive the single, two-person, and family rates from the carriers, and then we unblended them. So these rates are lower than what the actual single, two-person, family premiums will be because we unblended the rates. And then we annualize that number, and in this case, we add an HSA contribution to stay at the hard cap amount, okay? So that's plan. The annual cost happens to meet the hard cap amount because we're talking contribution to premium and contribution to the HSA. In this case, the employee pays nothing because it's exactly at the hard cap amount. We did the math down at the bottom of the 80/20. Now, we did it on each page for each plan, not as an aggregate, but for 22 people enrolled in this plan. If we did 80/20, the employees would be paying, $68,000 in employee contribution to premium. I think we'd need to get your attorney involved to see, in this case, how we would count this contribution to the HSA, how that would fall with the 80/20. We'd have to get the labor attorney involved, but that's the impact that it would bring.
Okay, no, thank you. I just always like to identify that figure and seeing what the difference would be.
I think it might be inflated if we were only looking at premium, that number would be lower.
Got it. All right. The other question, when we mentioned additional benefit or whatever, how do we currently handle the co-pays on any, like dental and vision and whatever this new item? Is it strictly wrapped into the whole thing, or is there a portion of employee contribution towards each one of those?
The contribution to premium for the medical is listed on these pages, so the majority of your population has a $0 contribution to premium. The new program, this slide outlines down this column what employees would be paying and how much would be contributed to their HSA. As far as the dental and vision, there's no contribution for employees, is that right? Except for a few union employees pay for the vision per their contract, so a contribution to premium for that. And then for the new Alliance EAP program, there's no cost to employees, and there's no copay when they seek these mental health services, so that's very nice as well.
Is there a limited amount that they can access for those mental health services and such?
Yeah, there are 3 options, which was to the point of reporting, right? 3 visits, 5 visits, or resolution model. And so this is a resolution model. It's intended for short-term therapy. If you've got something major going on, maybe like a substance abuse problem, that would go to the medical plan, right? The cost between the different models is very small, and it's found that typically it takes more than 5 visits for short-term problem resolution. I was talking to Alliance the other day, they said typically they're resolved within, 5 to 12 visits, so doing the resolution model helps with that. And it's per short-term problem. If I have a loss now, I can have my short-term therapy, and then if I have, a different issue, maybe something going on with a coworker, I can call, that's a fresh set of visits. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gearbaugh. Councilmember Delorco, you have 5 minutes if you'd like it.
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Easy enough. Councilmember Rice?
No questions, thank you. I really appreciate that EAP description that you just gave us. I'm really surprised that this is the first year that employees will be able to utilize that. That's great.
There was one in place, and it has been replaced, so.
This sounds great. Thanks.
City Manager O'Toole, anything you'd like to add before we move on?
No, pretty sure.
Excellent. Appreciate the presentation, very thorough. And of course, my colleagues will have another bite at the apple when we reach new business item 23-119. Thank you so much. That exhausts the presentation portion of tonight's agenda. We now move on to the consent agenda. The following consent agenda will normally be adopted without discussion. However, at the request of any citizen or council member, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for council discussion.
Move to approve.
Moved by Gearbaugh to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Rice. Hearing no objection, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move to unfinished business, agenda item 23-212, DEI bylaws. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the memo from City Assessor Sutton and to approve or not to approve the bylaws as submitted.
Move to acknowledge.
Moved by Gearbaugh to acknowledge. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dillon. I'll get you on the next one, Mr. Kamara-Sulak. City Manager O'Toole, would you like to begin, or do you want to immediately defer to City Treasurer Cole, who's a voting member of DEI?
I can begin and then hand it off to Treasurer Cole.
Okay, why don't you, if I may be so bold, City Manager O'Toole, if you could focus on some of the changes, modifications that were made between the previous meeting and the current meeting, that would be helpful.
Certainly, some of the biggest changes involved really just brought it up to speed with standardized language. We also removed references to public hearings that were in the first draft versus this draft, and then clarified with a little bit better language how appointees can be made to subcommittees, not from outside of the organization, because obviously that responsibility vests with council to assign any new members, but from within existing membership. Treasurer Cole, if you want to jump in, I don't know if there's any additional major changes.
No, those were the major changes.
I don't think that microphone is on. Anything else you'd like to add, Treasurer Cole, as the, not the official liaison? That's, of course, Assessor Sutton, but you are a voting member of DEI, a member. We welcome any perspective you'd like to share.
Yes, thank you so much for your consideration of the bylaws this evening. Regrettably, due to timing issues, we were not able to get the DEI committee approve these bylaws before they came here before you tonight. However, I do have the full faith and hope that they will be passed at our next regular meeting. Despite this, we really are on the precipice of necessity to close this gap in our operations. So we really do need this basis for bylaws so that we can operate in the correct way and have these in place for us to kind of close the gap.
Yes, thank you. Functioning bylaws for all of our boards, committees, commissions is absolutely essential. And I also think an annual review or evaluation of bylaws is a best practice to make sure we're operating under established rules. And if the rules don't fit and are dated or stale, then they should be revised. But at a bare minimum, having rules that govern the operations of our municipal boards and commissions is absolutely critical. Thank you for that. Are there questions for the city manager or for Treasurer Cole? Mr. Gearbaugh.
Just to clarify, are we comparing our bylaws between committees to make sure we're consistent?
Yes.
And is this any different, any issues in here that you continue to, Ms. Cole maybe, is there any consistency or issues that we want to?
I mean, I use a different template when I write mine in terms of formatting structure, but no, the general content is relatively consistent with the other bylaws that we've adopted recently and existing bylaws of committees and commissions.
So with the next tweaks or whatever you had mentioned, Treasurer Cole, that would be something that will be more consistent with what we currently have in our bylaws?
what's before you, yes, is more consistent than we had previously.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Mayor Pro Tem Dillon?
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert hit upon my first, and I just want to understand that this is a large committee with 9 members. And so it can be a split of half and half between residents and non-residents?
It always has to weigh more in favor of residents. So if you have 9 members, there have to be at least 5 that are residents.
Okay. And just for clarification, because I didn't really understand the way it was written, the staff liaison or the staff member, I shouldn't say that, a staff person that is a voting member, where do they stand with residency if they're a non-resident, which most of our staff are non-city residents?
They would be counted as a non-resident in that case. They're selected for their expertise in the specific area.
Okay. And I think that we had talked about this in making sure that all of our bylaws sort of match up. We've got one set, and that they are always open to revisions at any point. And just for clarification, our DEI committee is not the same as our Human Rights Commission.
Correct.
And they are not intertwined.
Correct.
Okay, just for that clarification, thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Councilmember Rice?
I'd like to follow up on that. They are not intertwined. However, am I correct that there will be members of the DEI committee nominated to the?
Two.
members nominated?
Correct. Of the 5-member board, there will be 2 that represent DEI committee members. I think to Councilmember Dillon's point, the mission of the 2 bodies are distinctly unique.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that for the public so that if they see names in 2 different spaces. One more question. Is there a precedent for council approving bylaws that have not been officially approved by the committee themselves?
Absolutely. I mean, technically, council is the authority. It's more, as an advisory body, they recommend the bylaws. Most committees recommend it up, but there's certainly precedent for us to just adopt bylaws.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no additional questions or comments on a motion to acknowledge, we'll proceed to vote. It's been moved by Gearboss, seconded by Dillon. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion now to approve or not to approve the bylaws as submitted?
Move to approve.
Moved by CO to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kamara Sulak. Is there any additional discussion from the dais? Yes.
Just to clarify again, as Ms. Cole had mentioned, there's nothing else that significantly needs to change or is disagreed upon?
No, I've reviewed these. We reviewed them against other existing bylaws. I feel the bylaws that you see here are very boilerplate. There's really nothing unique other than the fact that this is one of our larger committees, and they do allow resident and non-resident. I would say those are the only aspects that are slightly different than some of our other committee bylaws.
Thank you, because I think there was some confusion out in the public when they were discussing some of the things about what this committee can do and what Human Rights Commission is.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Councilmember Rice, before we vote.
I was privy to the conversation. I attended the DEI committee meeting as a citizen. And the only reason that this is delayed, and from my viewpoint as a citizen, was they hadn't seen a red line of the document. But there was discussion about what the changes were, and everybody's seemingly amenable. So I after having attended that meeting, don't have any issues that there will be anything that big that comes up.
Very good. If there's nothing further, we do have a motion on the floor moved by CO, seconded by Kamara Sulak to approve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 23-219, 2024 insurance renewals, of course, an item we just discussed under the presentation portion of tonight's agenda. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the memo from Assistant City Manager Getzman and to approve or not to approve the 2024 insurance renewals as presented.
So moved.
Would you like to move to acknowledge and approve, Mr. Kamara Sulak?
To acknowledge and approve.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Delorco. Again, City Manager O'Toole, anything you would like to add that you did not articulate 10, 15 minutes ago when we previously discussed the item?
Nothing further.
Okay. Questions or comments from the dais? Easy enough. Then we'll proceed to vote. It's been moved by Camara Sulak, seconded by Del Orco to acknowledge and to approve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. Ladies, thank you very much. Appreciate your time this evening and your continued work on the city's behalf. We move on to new business item 23-220, appointment of the Parks and Recreation Director. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the memo from City Manager O'Toole and to accept or not to accept the appointment of Sunshine Lambert as Parks and Recreation Director effective October 21st, 2023.
Move to approve. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Sia.
Move to acknowledge and accept.
Moved by CO to acknowledge and accept. And Mayor Pro Tem Dillon, are you amenable to seconding that motion?
Yes, please.
Very good. City Manager O'Toole, would you like to comment?
I think we are in an incredibly fortunate situation, and this is evidence of the absolute success of the city's foresight in putting together a succession plan years ago. We made a decision about 2 years ago to move Ms. Lambert into the deputy director position in anticipation of a future retirement. During that time, she's gotten up to speed in terms of the operations and administration of Parks and Recreation more broadly within the city of Saline. And she brings with her decades of experience, not just with the city but elsewhere, that I think we are extremely fortunate to be able to retain and show growth within our organization for employees who put in that time, that effort, and display that high degree of competency. So I am exceedingly pleased and without reservation recommend for appointment Sunshine Lambert as Director of Parks and Recreation.
Very good. Ms. Lambert, primarily for the public's benefit, would you like to come to the podium and talk a little bit about your background and maybe some key priorities for you and your future staff and colleagues in the ensuing months and years?
Yes, thank you, everybody. And I actually did write a speech as well, so I can talk about that in just a few minutes.
You can dive right into the prepared speeches if you like. I'm very into prepared remarks, so yeah. I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate that. And I will give a little bit of a background. My undergraduate degree is from Ohio University, another MAC school, and that was in 1998. My degree was therapeutic recreation, which is quite similar to Carla's, and I grew a passion for community recreation when I spent my summers in college as a camp counselor. So that's where I kind of got my start. And fortunately, I've been able to work with summer camps for the past, if I add all those years, probably 25 plus years working in community parks and recreation. So that's my start. Prior to coming to the city, I lived in Cincinnati. I worked in the field of therapeutic recreation and long-term care. So first of all, first and foremost, and this is kind of awkward, I want to congratulate Carla for her upcoming retirement. She has a couple more days left. And I can tell everybody she will be greatly missed by all. I think for those of you in the audience, I know it's been expressed earlier. Carla led by doing, and there's no task that was above her. I can think of many times where she donned on the big suit to go clean up some unfortunate event that may have taken place in a pool. So, but she did. She really did lead by doing. She held us all accountable, each and every one of us. She would keep detailed accounts of conversations, agreements, timelines. Her mantra, and it's interesting because we talked about this today, is that we all need to do what's best for our department, even if what's best is not the easy answer. Those who know Carla know that she's incredibly resourceful and creative, which came in handy, especially during our challenging times. And I think back to the Great Recession and the pandemic, she would make things happen that I don't think other people would have thought of. Most importantly, Carla values the relationships that she's built over the years. And for all of us who know her, Carla knows everybody. And if you need to know somebody or you're trying to get a leg up somewhere, she probably knows somebody who can help you out. Saline Parks and Recreation will feel a bit different come next week, but I know that she won't be a stranger. I've been fortunate to spend the last 20 plus years of my career under her leadership, and I've learned so much. So I'd like to thank our city manager and city council for this amazing opportunity to continue to serve the Saline community. Every day I see firsthand the value we bring to youth and adults, families and seniors, and everybody in between. These are people who seek opportunities for health, wellness, social interaction, enrichment, therapy, family time, mental well-being. I know we talk a lot about that these days. Stress reduction, skill development, and so much more. I've had the great privilege of working alongside an exceptional team, and I'd like to recognize Brian Sproul, here with our department. And together, we are dedicated to ensuring that our department is a beacon of community pride, fostering a deep sense of belonging to everyone and serving the community in a fiscally prudent manner. We have our work cut out for us. I think we all know that in these upcoming years. And I'm inspired by the legacy that Carla leaves behind, and know that with hard work and strong collaborations, we can build upon her foundation and leave a remarkable legacy for generations to come. If it's been a while, for anybody who's been to the rec center, if you haven't been there in a while, I invite each and every one of you, make an appointment with me. I'd love to give you a tour. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Sunshine. Before we open it up for questions or comments, let me just say that I will be enthusiastically supporting the motion that is on the floor. I find Ms. Lambert to be the consummate professional, very conscientious, and I think the right leader for this particular time. And I'll share with you a statement that my predecessor articulated to me when she was departing as mayor and I was coming into office. And it's a sports analogy, so it's timely, which is she was passing the ball off to me, and her hope and goal was that I continued to move that ball down the field for the betterment of the Saline community. And I love that analogy. I love the imagery of that, too. And I hope to say that at some point to the person that assumes the mayor's seat when I choose to leave. So I wish you the best of luck. I know you'll do great. And at this time, I'm happy to open it up for questions or comments from the dais. Mr. Mayor Sulek.
Yes, thank you. Being on the Saline Youth Council this last year, this year and last year, you've been at the meetings and participated. The succession planning, I don't think we could have done any better. Carla has so much patience after a long day of working at the rec center. Probably comes straight to the Saline Youth Council meetings and is prepared, almost always has the answers, and runs a really smooth council. And the kids, the students appreciate that. And Sunshine also brings that to the Saline Youth Council. Need to be able to identify and be able to engage, and as having young children and not being far away, I think I'm glad that you are presented with this opportunity, and I will be fully supporting it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Additional comments or questions from the dais? Mayor Pro Tem Dillon?
Thank you. Congratulations, Sunshine.
Thank
I've had
you.
the honor of knowing Sunshine on both sides, from the business side of things, and then as a neighbor, a mom with kids. We play in the park together, and you just always bring so much to the table, and I look forward to working with you in the future. So congratulations.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Dillon. Any additional comments before we vote? Mr. Seal?
Yes, thank you. Sunshine, I just hope you can carry on one tradition that I always came to expect from Carla, and that's to always have a smile on your face.
I don't think that'll be too hard.
Very good.
Ms. Rice?
As the Parks Commission liaison over the last 10 months, it's been an absolute pleasure to get to see the enthusiasm from both you and from Carla, and bringing an all-volunteer committee together to try to tackle some things and to do things like the Green Thumb program. I remember the first time that I ever experienced Sunshine. We were at a Parks event, and you were introducing yourself, and I literally looked at my spouse and said, she looks like a supermodel. You just bring that spirit and that energy, and I have neighbors whose kids attend the camps all summer long, and they just love it, and they come home and they tell us about what they did at camp. So this continuation, I think, we are all so lucky to have you to continue those programs, and I look forward to the future of getting to try to tackle some of those tasks with you if I get to stay on the commission. So thanks.
No, thank you. That was so kind, so generous. Thank you.
If there's nothing further, appreciate all those comments. Sunshine, thank you. We do have a motion on the floor moved by CO, seconded by Dillon, to acknowledge and to accept. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And hang tight, because this is your, I guess this is your first official action item and maybe Carla's last. So I'll actually move this one. I'll move to acknowledge receipt of the memo from Deputy Director Lambert and to approve the purchase and installation of a boiler and tank for the Saline Recreation Center in an amount of $54,072.82 and authorize the City Treasurer to amend line item 208-956-985-000, equipment greater than $5,000 from capitalization.
I'll second that.
Very good. Moved by Morrow, seconded by Kamara Sulak to acknowledge, approve, authorize, and amend. Please.
So a little bit of background, our domestic hot water boiler provides the hot water for our showers and our faucets throughout the rec center. So this is a very important piece of equipment. The unit that we have was installed 23 years ago, and upon further inspection, the unit, the lifespan is only expected to be anywhere from 10 to 15 years, and thanks to outstanding maintenance, we have been able to expand that life of it. So again, 23 years. We've definitely faced some issues with the hot water boiler. In the most recently, this past July, we had a factory fitting which separated, and it caused a lot of water to spray out of the boiler, which caused damage to our ray pack unit, which needed then repair from that, and a breaker box as well. So that was a significant failure that we recently saw. In the past several years, we've had issues with our heat exchanger, which has failed several times. The combustion chamber has failed as well, and it really truly is at end life. We're worried that something more catastrophic will happen. Alltech came in recently to put a repair. They did a patch on that fitting, the factory fitting where it was splitting, and they also did an inspection, and their recommendation is to replace the boiler.
Ms. Lambert, when routine maintenance was done, was that generally done by an independent third party, or was that done in-house by city staff?
I would say both. So, we have outstanding maintenance staff who happens to be in attendance. So Brian Sproul, he does regular preventative maintenance and inspections, but he also works closely with, our professional inspectors and service providers.
Well, the motion or the recommendation seems very reasonable. Obviously, you need hot water at a recreation complex. But the genesis for the question was to compliment
yes,
you all for getting 20-plus years out of a piece of technology that, by every objective measure, has a lifespan of between 10 and 15. So.
Yes, no, I really do have to credit our maintenance department and Brian, and just, being on top of it, very organized, and keeping track of those repairs that have been needed, so yes.
Very good. Director Scruggs, anything you'd like to add?
She's got it all.
Perfect. Questions or comments for our incoming Parks and Rec Director? Ms. Dillon.
Thank you. It's probably for the city manager, since the city treasurer is not here. What are we amending that line to? Is there anything in that line budgeted, or is this going to take a full hit of the full amount?
I would have to open BS&A to let you know if there's an amount specifically budgeted, but I'm happy to do that and get you the number.
No, that's fine, and I don't need to know it now, because obviously this is something that we need to do, but I just need to understand that if we're taking money
Sure, the
from
net
something that
increase.
didn't, yes, and
Yeah.
are we going to cut something as a result?
Not a problem. I will get you that information.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yep. Additional questions? Councilmember Rice?
this may also be for the city manager, but it might be for you as well. Does this, does the maintenance of this fall into the maintenance service contract that we recently approved for the?
I can tell you that for the new hot water boiler, there is a 5-year factory warranty, a 1-year labor warranty, and 1-year warranty on parts. I think, Carla might have a better answer for that.
Yeah, so the maintenance contract that we have with Alltech is quarterly PM, and then any repairs are labor and time. So it does fall within that PM. They will be PMing it, making sure it's certified, and so on and so forth.
I wasn't sure if new equipment was for something else.
No,
Okay.
no.
Thank you.
Mr. Gearba?
Just real quick, this installation includes any kind of updates that we need to code certification or anything like that? Knowing that it's been how many years since it was installed and knowing things change in our building codes?
Yes, I mean, so it's going to include demoing the old tank, okay, because they're going to be removing it's just shy of 400-gallon tank, so they need to actually take that apart because they can't take it out in one unit. And then they're installing 2 separate tanks because, again, trying to get a big one back up there is nearly impossible. It includes, they're going to reattach to the existing electrical, but there is going to be additional like new installation, they're going to look at all the wiring, so on and so forth. So yes, it will be up to code, absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that was part of this bid.
Yes, yes.
Anything else before we vote? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Carla, thank you as well. We have a motion on the floor moved by Morrow, seconded by Commander Sulak to acknowledge, to approve, to authorize, and to amend. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We moved on to the discussion portion of the agenda because I want to be respectful of her time. Chief Radzik, would you like to come to the podium and address a few issues at this point so that you can be excused when you have completed your remarks? I know you wanted to share some things regarding a very tragic event that recently occurred, and then a subsequent meeting that was had reference domestic violence and maybe some other forthcoming initiatives here within city government.
Sure. This is still an active investigation, so what I'm going to give you is brief and about the only thing that I can speak to. But on Friday, September 29th, Saline Police Department responded to the residence of Cindy Gotchis for a welfare check. It was later discovered she'd been shot at her residence. During the investigation, it was discovered the male suspect had fled to his state of residence, which was Indiana. He went to a campground and attempted suicide. We were in communications with the Fort Wayne Police Department as well as the DNR, gave them the information that we had, and they located him. He was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the chest. He was still alive. He was transported to the hospital in Fort Wayne, where he remained for about a week and a half. The following morning, when this occurred, the homicide, Detective Stanford obtained a warrant for open murder and felony firearm. The suspect is currently at the Allen County Jail. He will be transported soon to the Washtenaw County Jail, where he will be arraigned. So I can't release his identity until he's arraigned, but that should happen within probably this week. And because of that, of course, this is the second homicide we've had here, unfortunately, in the city of Saline that was both domestic related. Neither one of these men resided within the city, and these women were targeted because at one point in time they had a domestic romantic relationship with the offender. So because of that, a lot of some council members and the mayor was concerned about, apparently we had a domestic violence task force at one point in time, and reached out to me to see, what we should be doing around domestic violence here in the city. So I reached out to the director of Safe House. So on August 5th, the deputy chief, some council members, and I met with the director of Safe House.
If I may, Chief, I believe you said August. I'm sure you meant October.
Yes, October, sorry, yes. So unfortunately, like I said, these men targeted these women. Councilmember Nicole Rice was present at the meeting, as well as Dean Gerba and Janet Dillon, so I'll let Nicole speak to about her involvement and what this looks like moving forward. And for those not familiar with Safe House, it's located within Washtenaw County. It offers emergency temporary shelter, legal advocacy, and a response team, support groups, and individual crisis support services. Anytime we're dispatched to a domestic assault or domestic-related incident, we call the on-call Safe House volunteer who takes the information and then tries to engage with the survivor. They will actually make a personal visit to the survivor if they're in the hospital, but for safety reasons, they won't go out to the residents, but they will engage over the telephone. And in addition to that, with the children involved, if they witness, I just mentioned this because some people on council, they were not aware, we have this Handle with Care program. So if there was a child that had witnessed a domestic assault or they were in the house and even heard it, our officers fill out, and this is throughout entire Washtenaw County, a form. It gets emailed to the schools, to a specific person. They do not get the details of what happened or even what kind of incident occurred, but that's just alerting school staff and counselors, school counselors to know, to keep an eye on the child, at school. And it's not just domestic related, it's any kind of trauma or crisis that the children had witnessed. It could be a bad car crash or some type of assault that isn't even domestic related that they witnessed. So with that, if you have any questions about either where we go forward with the task force, or if it's even going to be a task force, or just kind of bringing awareness. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, so on our PD page every Monday, I've been posting articles related to domestic violence and just bringing awareness to that. So I don't know, Nicole, if you wanted to.
Yeah, sure, I'd like to take a moment. As the chief mentioned, a few of us from council met with the chief, the deputy chief, and the director of Safe House. We are currently exploring some different avenues to create a task force. But the reason we wanted to meet with the police department and Safe House is we don't want to duplicate efforts. What we would like to do is just to enhance communication, to enhance efforts that are going on throughout the city and throughout Washtenaw County. We often find ourselves sort of isolated here in Saline and perhaps don't realize that all of these resources are available to us, that things like this do take place within our city. And so we thought it very important to start reaching out to those resources. The director of Safe House is going to guide us through this process. She's going to be a resource for us so that we are not doing this on our own. We are just taking advantage of all of the resources that are available and just enhancing them and promoting them throughout the city. So there will be more to come. We want to make sure that we do this thoughtfully, but we have already started, as the chief mentioned, the police department is putting out information throughout this month, and we will continue to share on our platforms as much as we can. And then you'll see more communications, hopefully throughout the city. We want to be able to make resources available in discreet ways, but also in obvious ways, so that people know that this is not a city where you can get away with domestic violence, and this is a city where we can embrace you and help you through your domestic violence situations. So more to come on that, but we wanted to make sure that we got a jump start on this. So that definitely going into the new year, we can start putting a plan in place and be a little bit more organized and let Safe House guide us through some, potential upcoming events and some different types of activities to help spread awareness.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Dillon or Councilmember Gearba, anything you'd like to add? Janet first.
Thank you. No, I think that Ms. Rice hit upon it. We are going to be creating a new outreach group within the city, and we're still working through the details of that right now, and we're looking forward to it, and once we have it established, we would welcome community members to get involved.
Thank you. Mr. Gearbaugh?
Yeah, I appreciate the chief's involvement in this and reaching out to Safe House, knowing that Christine Watson was the contact to which we want to really look forward to bringing them on board and to present. Even they will come to do activities for us and so forth in terms of what they're offering, what their services are, and even just trying to give additional ideas of how we can get this information out to the community and working with other organizations throughout the city. For me, it's one of those things that it's just, we can't put this on the back burner. It needs to come forward now, and hopefully whatever we can do to get this moving forward. And the idea of us reconfiguring an existing committee into more of a community wellness in terms of addressing all issues, including mental health, domestic violence, all of those aspects would be beneficial for us to move forward, especially even like what we did today of providing more mental health for our staff. It's just clearly mental health is a concern. It's an epidemic, and even the Surgeon General has mentioned that. So whatever we can do going forward, we're looking forward to trying to accomplish that.
Very good. Of course, everyone on council and I think the community looks forward to hearing more. What bears mentioning, and I think it's best that it comes from somebody external from the police department, is that while this was an exceedingly tragic incident, and our heart grieves for the loss of life and for the family and loved ones of the deceased, our police department, chief, deputy chief, Detective Stanford, and the officers did act quickly, moved expeditiously, were thoughtful and thorough, and we're on a trajectory of making sure that the suspect is held accountable for this appalling act. So I just want to congratulate our police department for a job well done, and on the domestic violence, mental health, community well-being front, we look forward to hearing more and having more robust discussions, not only amongst ourselves, but with our residents and community stakeholders as well. Anything else you'd like to add at this time, Chief?
No, sir.
Very good. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. Reports and announcements. Again, I'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Dillon and end with Councilmember Rice.
Thank you. There's not too much on my committees to report. We have upcoming meetings. The only one that I'd like to make mention of is that I attended the latest status update meeting for Andalina Farms, which is a Saline Township development right on our western border. And what I wanted to share is that per an agreement we had with Andalina Farms, they would do some periodic testing of the discharge that's going into our unnamed tributary, which goes near Huntington Woods. That testing has been submitted to the city. It has been approved, and it is all within the limits. And so there does not seem to be an issue at this time. So that was great news.
Very good. Thank you. Councilmember Seal, any reports or announcements?
Yes, Your Honor. This morning, I met with the Saline Area Senior Citizens Board as the board member appointed by City Council. There's some concern that as the school system begins to spend the money that was voted during the recent bond, that the expansion or the renovation of the senior center is not overlooked as part of that expansion. So enough said about that. Also, there's a meeting of the cemetery board this Thursday at 3 p.m. right here in the council workroom. And any and all are welcome to attend.
Very good. Councilmember Kamara-Sulak, any reports or announcements?
Yes, I have three. So the Arts and Culture Committee has changed their meeting times to Thursdays at 4 o'clock, so the third Thursday of the month, the change in time. The Saline Youth Council is meeting tomorrow, so that is very good timing. And then the DEI Committee, as you're all aware, we worked on the bylaws, and then discussing our plans to have the Day of the Dead celebration at the Senior Center. And that's it.
Very good.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gearbaugh, any reports or announcements?
Just a few. wastewater treatment plant continues to move forward. I think they just recently emptied out their one building, and we're getting ready to do demolition. There's going to be a letter going out to the individuals that surround the property, but I believe it'll be available to the public, that discusses more about how the project's going to start moving forward fairly quickly. Water treatment plant continues to do repair works on the reverse osmosis, the iron filters, other valves that are being replaced. Also, well 7 is in the approach that hopefully will receive all the final approvals and everything to get that up and running. And then I believe we received news about a grant for well 8 to do a siting study for that. So hopefully that'll be another accomplishment to our water treatment and facility in the next year or so. One of the things in the city manager had mentioned earlier during our work session, we are really encouraging everyone to sign up to the water meter, what's the name of it again?
The smart meter app.
Smart meter app that we have on there. I know it has another name.
Yeah.
With the goal of eventually making that one of our communication processes so that people will understand what's happening with, when there's work being done on the hydrants when they're being flushed, or there's other water down or water shutoffs or anything like that, so that we can get a more accomplished and a more better communication and timely event. And that is one of the tools, which was one of the things we promised when we brought that online, was to use that and hopefully have people, as we said, monitor their water and everything else and be able to be up to date as quick as possible. And then lastly, Planning Commission met last week to discuss more about our master plan. It basically addressed more about density and some of the overlays that we're talking about doing as we move forward. And hopefully in the next week, we'll be discussing the 207 project to get that, maybe its final site plan, and hopefully we'll see construction on that in the next few months or the next spring.
Very good. Councilmember Del Orco, any reports or announcements?
Although both committees are scheduled to meet on Wednesday, it looks like Ben has canceled the Code Review Committee for this month, and Environmental Commission is pushing back till next week due to attendance conflicts. There is an attachment in the packet related to the special events planning and recycling public notice. This is essentially the vendor guidelines that were approved some months ago in anticipation of community-sponsored events utilizing vendor-provided recycling services. And basically, we all voted on approving these guidelines and distributing them to the public to follow. And I just want to make sure that this is codified in some way so there's clear direction moving forward to staff, so that this is either included as part of the community events application process and is a prerequisite for them to agree to before their applications are approved, or if council has other ideas as to how we can hold our city-sponsored events accountable for recycling in the city. Certainly may need to have that discussion.
And Mr. Del Orco, just for clarification, would you like to have that discussion this evening, or were you broaching it more as an informational item, hoping that it could come back for a more robust discussion at a later date?
I only brought it up because it was in the packet.
Okay.
That's
okay.
If you guys want to defer, that's fine.
Okay, well, let's get through our announcements, and if people have specific comments or statements they'd like to make, great. Otherwise, we can revisit it at one of our upcoming meetings. Do you have any other reports or announcements, Mr. Del Orco?
I do not.
Okay, Councilmember Rice.
Just two quick things to piggyback on my colleague, Mr. Gearbach. So the letter that is going out regarding the Saline wastewater treatment plant project that's going to be starting soon also mentions that contractors and employees doing the construction will be parking in the People's Park parking lot. I have reached out to the city manager for confirmation that this will be during the daytime construction only, and it will be monitored to make sure that it does not over commit the parking lot for baseball games and things like that throughout the coming years. So we will be keeping an eye on that. Speaking of which, to find information, I can't stress enough to the public to sign up for the ClearGov alerts. There's a lot of misinformation out on Facebook about these projects and what they all entail and their timelines. When you sign up for ClearGov, you're going to get updated alerts. I commend city staff for keeping those pages up to date as possible. They've got a lot of good detail in them about what's happening on what days and certain weeks, what to look for. So thank you for that. And then lastly, I've been just casually meeting with some business owners downtown just to have some conversations around events coming up. There's a lot of great things coming up. So I recommend that everyone try to follow all of our businesses on social media, keep up with Saline Main Street. Trunk or Treat is coming up. The Fourth Fridays for the next few months are really exciting and lots of fun stuff coming up. December Cocoa Crawl before the tree lighting and the parade, just lots of good stuff, especially as we get into our holiday season and festivities. I think it's the best way that we can help our downtown businesses, and it's the best way that we can draw attraction for new businesses and our empty storefronts to show them that, hey, Saline shows up for these events and there's lots of buzz downtown. So I will get off of my soapbox about that.
Very good. Well, actually, while you're on Trunk or Treat, Mayor Pro Tem Dillon and I had a text message exchange about this last night, and it saves me an email. She has graciously offered to sort of be the point person at the 2023 Trunk or Treat. I have candy that I am going to donate, and I will be there for the first half hour. But as Councilmember Gearbaugh made mention of, we have a very important Planning Commission meeting that night, beginning at 7. We hope to approve, or I hope to approve, rather, the final site plan approval for 207 Monroe Street, so we can close on that property and that the developer can expedite a quality project on that site. But we do need volunteers to attend Trunk or Treat if you are around, so please reach out to Councilmember Dillon. I believe that Mr. Seo will also be there, but if you've not been in the past, every participant goes through quite a bit of candy. So I bought, I think, about 350 plus pieces. If you'd like to donate, you'd like to participate, please get in touch with Mayor Pro Tem Dillon. Is there anything else you'd like to add about that, Janet?
No, we're just looking forward to it, and all are welcome.
Okay. Would it be best, I know I made mention of this last night, would it be best if anybody who wants to donate candy, 1, confirms that with you, and 2, leaves it in the city council office?
That would be the best thing, as I'm going to be leaving town for a conference.
Okay, very good.
The date?
It would be the 25th.
Yeah, next Wednesday.
Yep,
Next Wednesday.
the 25th. Yep. 25th in the evening. And then I just have one item, and I've addressed this previously with many of you, but at our most recent council agenda meeting, which this month and last consisted of myself, City Manager O'Toole, and Mr. Gearbaugh, I brought forward the idea of sending a letter to our elected officials, in particular our state elected officials, but also including federal and county, outlining our funding requests for 2024, specific to projects that are of vital importance to this community and those that may not qualify for many of the existing funding streams. So we can't ask for everything. We have to be very strategic and thoughtful with our ask. And so the three of us last Wednesday agreed to draft a letter, and I think the letter ought to be signed not just by the mayor or the city manager, but it would be more impactful coming from the whole of council. So I would like your permission to draft a letter in conjunction with the city manager and the PR generalist. We'll circulate an electronic draft in the next couple weeks, and if there's agreement, I would come to our next council meeting, which is 3 weeks away, on November 6th, with a letter for everybody to sign, and then we will mail it to our elected officials. And the 3 asks in order of importance, would be first wastewater treatment rehabilitation, which we've already been successful with getting money, but because of the cost of that project and because it's shovel ready, we could of course use additional dollars. Second would be the rec center or recreation and our parks more broadly, and then the third would be the creation of additional parking or a downtown gathering space, some sort of central hub in the core of our community. Now, I'm keenly aware that when we're trying to get agreement from all 7 members of a legislative body, perhaps the tone, tenor, and diction of this letter might not be the word choice that you use, but I would encourage you, if you're amenable to this idea, to try your best to be accommodating. Obviously, we want you all to sign off on the substance of the letter, and if you're comfortable with that, then again, we would bring a hard copy for you all to sign on November 6th, and we would put it in the mail subsequent to that. Is there any objection to proceeding with the drafting of said letter? Easy enough, then we will proceed. Okay? Are there any other reports or announcements this evening? Mayor Pro Tem Dillon.
Thank you. Just 2 quick things that keep popping up on social media that I would like to remind people. That the Saline ball fields are not dog parks. please do not bring your dog onto the ball fields. Especially do not let them dig or defecate. It is causing great havoc on our parks. We do have great dog parks, and at those parks, we have waste bags. Please utilize both. And then the other that seems to be an issue all of a sudden is Maple Road is closed to through traffic. Let me say that again. Maple Road is closed to through traffic. I was at the post office and watched cars just repeatedly travel through an active construction site. It is not meant for that. Please go around, use the detours for your own safety and for the safety of all of the workers in those sites. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for that. Any additional announcements? Councilmember Rice.
If council is amenable, I would like to take 5 to 10 minutes to discuss Mr. Delorco's request for us to come up with something more substantial for our event, what are we calling it? The event?
Special event standards, recycling and public notice.
Yes, that. One of the things that I was thinking about, I think part of this is that we approved the events this year before we approved these standards, so they kind of came out afterward. I do agree that when we have an event requester, that we, upon approval or upon them sending this request, we send this to them and say, this will go in front of council. You should agree to these standards for your event. I think this will capture, I know that our two big events tried harder this year than they have in the past, and I know this will capture some of the smaller events that maybe trickled in and kind of slipped through the.
Can I interrupt real quick? Is the document already sent to the planning committees of Oktoberfest, Summerfest, et cetera?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It's part of the application, although it's a recommendation. We can't enforce them to
Right.
use it. I mean, like the city manager said, we could refuse funding for them, for the city's portion of the funding, but we can't require them to use a certain type of biodegradable cup or plate or something like that, because I don't think you can do that.
Do you want to elaborate on that? Is it we can't do it because we haven't mandated that as a formal requirement?
Yeah, so the current guidelines, and I think this, part of this discussion is also around just staff's understanding of the issue. The current standards are guidelines. So I think it would be great for staff to have consensus from council. Is it the intent that these stay guidelines, like this is what we'd like to see? Are we going to start saying these are our guidelines, and if you don't follow the guidelines, the city's not going to approve fee waivers? Or do we need to dive into the creation of an ordinance, because we can't restrict specific events from occurring without some sort of actual legal mechanism for doing it?
All right, let me state my opinion, then I'll jump to Councilmember Rice, and we'll work our way down to the end of the dais, ending with Councilmember Kamara-Sula. I think they're fine for guidelines, and I think that council will probably look more favorably on events that comply with the standard. At this juncture, I'm not in favor of making them anything more than guidelines, and I certainly would not favor the creation or adoption of said ordinance. Okay. Councilmember Rice?
At this current time, I would not favor the creation of an ordinance. I would not mind either code review or environmental commission somewhere down the line looking at ordinances for materials at things like events, especially those that the city is providing any sort of financial compensation or the other two. I think my instinct says let's give it another shot for all of the events next year. Let's just let's promote it more. Let's make it very apparent right up front. Again, I think we approved the events before this was approved this previous year. I would be amenable to giving it one more year with a little bit more promotion, a little bit more emphasis, and then somewhere down the line, perhaps thinking, we have to think sustainably. We have to start paying attention to what we're doing as humans. So I would be amenable to that down the road once we give this a shot.
Very good. Mr. Delorco?
I'm speaking on behalf of the Environmental Commission when I bring this issue forward. Because we are able to make significant headway with both Summerfest and Oktoberfest, I think the spirit is to keep this as a guideline. However, that it be adequately discussed, distributed, and deliberated upon when these community events applications are approved. The expectation is that our community-sponsored events will adhere to these guidelines, short of making them an ordinance or punitive consequences for not following the guidelines. I think you'll find that the community is very happy to follow these guidelines as they did with Oktoberfest and Summerfest this year. I can't speak for Celtic Festival as it's no longer in the jurisdiction of the Saline community. That is a separate event. They're going to run their own show. But I don't feel that making the ordinance is necessary. I think we're going to get voluntary compliance. But it does require proactive messaging, and it should be distributed with the community events application and brought up as a discussion point during the approval of those applications.
Very good.
If I may, perhaps a good kind of intermediary step is for us to amend the current special event application to specifically reference, have you read the recycling guidelines? Do you agree to comply with recycling guidelines?
The Environmental Commission would be very happy with that.
Let me make that up.
Mr. Gearbaugh?
A similar thing you could add to it.
You're killing me with how proactive you are.
I'm sorry.
You might want to add a paragraph of how can you achieve this, so that they can explain to us how they feel they can reach that. I believe that this was a recommendation. We set it up as a policy of recommendation. To make it mandatory would be difficult in some cases. And also by using some of these outside firms, there's no guarantee they're actually recycling it, because even the director, an individual from the Celtic Festival, did some investigations into them and learned that they did not guarantee, and up to 60% or more of their, what they claimed was being recycled didn't necessarily go into recycling. So there's no guarantee that making these outside firms, requirement or whatever is an issue. Also, and I'm going to bring this up, I was extremely disappointed with the approach that was taken, not only with the Celtic Festival, but with the Oktoberfest from the Environmental Commission. It was very accusatory, very, I don't know, I would call it very intimidating. And I, on my half, apologized for the city and for their actions to a number of members at the Oktoberfest. It was just inappropriate.
Mayor Pro Tem Dillon, your thoughts on the matter?
Thank you. I think I agree that, we did set this up as guidelines. It was just for their reference. I do think we could take this document, tighten it up a little bit, and just sort of change the formatting a little bit to make it a little more of a how-to. I'm not in favor of creating an ordinance at this point. If we're going to do that, then it needs to be a city-wide ordinance, and we would have to include our restaurants in that. I do not feel as though we should be penalizing our events when our restaurants are doing the same thing and using polystyrene and other things that we are saying that we're not going to accept at events. And I'd like to see us change the perspective on this, and instead of penalizing those that don't follow this, is more of a reward for those that do. And so I don't want to get into any kind of fines or things like that. So I would like to see us revisit this document and see what we can do to make it a little bit clearer that we are committed to recycling in this community, but we're not going to force it. And I think it will organically grow on its own.
Okay, that's very clear. Mr. Seal, your thoughts?
I think we ought to stick with the guidelines as well. It's kind of a thorny issue. I know the Oktoberfest, there are a number of different organizations that come to the fair, each of them having their own vendors, their own supply line, and some of them don't necessarily get the clear message. Now, I know we did in our booth because we have Mr. Westlake as part of our committee, so he speaks loud and clear on behalf of the recyclable effort that your committee's trying to make. So The other thing is too, even if we had a perfect world where we had clearly defined recyclable kinds of containers and so on, if they get mustard or ketchup on them, I don't know that they're eligible for recycling then, are they?
No, if they have a lot of food products or grease on it, I don't think they are. Certainly not cardboard.
So that can create a problem. The other thing is, many of the people who attend pay no attention whatsoever to the markings on the trash containers, for recyclable or trash. They don't make the distinction in their own mind. So I think we have a huge job to do in terms of trying to educate the public before we do any kind of trying to stand on people's necks over this issue. So I think guidelines and training is our best approach.
Very good. Mr. Kamara-Sulak?
I also agree that it would be preemptive to create an ordinance. It's nice to know that we could do that, and I don't think we will. I think increased messaging and engaging with the vendors. I think everybody's good-hearted and wants to do what's right, and especially in events like that. We have so many good events in town. I think buttoning up that, I think we'll be good.
Thank you. I believe you have your consensus.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for bringing that forward. If there are no additional issues to be brought before City Council this evening from council members, we'll proceed to our second public comment period. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time, make comment or question to City Council. This public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record.
Good evening again. I rise again to address the thing of the comment on the October 23rd Strategic Planning Commission meeting at 5 p.m., I believe here. So I hope that more people can participate from the public, as all of you probably will be here. And the strategy we're going to set on with the new language is so important, which is related with what we have been going on to witness is Saline for the last several years, before and during and after the coronaviruses. We have suffered a lot. Saline people, as the whole world, suffer a lot. This is the problem of the environment, the disease, psychological, mental illnesses, or something deeper than that. So therefore, we need a new strategy, and at least we should work together to find out what is the reason. We have great successfully example to address what we should continue, stay with the current policy, the ordinate, and the guidelines. However, if things continue to happen, consecutive 2 months, 2 women being killed, and also there are some other unhappy things happen. Our society is splitting farther and farther. The gap between rich and poor, have and have not, is out of control. Zoom out, we can see the whole world is splitting, fighting, killing by thousands. So therefore, we have to think deep how Saline can get out of this mess, and also how can we lead the rest of the cities and even the whole Washington County and whole Michigan State. So therefore, I just really think that we should really consider about the language first, and also our mindset. We do need paradigm shift. I believe proactive is even not enough, let alone this reactive, deactive, passive, or regular just active. That's not enough anymore. So we have to really consider this. New ideas, new way of thinking. I like Mr. Delcourt mentioned about the term what he just used, proactive. But I think this problem much deeper. I don't know how many seconds do I have left.
12.
12, and I want to congratulate the new director. And then with great honor and Director drops and with great honor and say goodbye to us, but the new director, Park and Recreation, it's not just Park and Recreation, it's also new strategy. We should rebuild Saline.
Thank you, Changmin. Are there any additional citizen comments this evening from those in the audience? Clerk Royal, are there any written comments submitted in which the statement should be read at this time? Then please note our upcoming meetings, including a strategic planning session next Monday at 5 p.m. here in council chambers. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn this regular meeting at 8:42.
So moved.
Moved by Dylan. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kamara Sulak. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.